There is another way to deal with uncertainty and risk, besides taking an effective action, and that's perception. Perception is forming our reality. And perception is based on our beliefs. And our personal beliefs are based on the type of data we're feeding our brain from the reality around us. On the mountain, when we're sitting at the base camp, there are always two groups of people. There is one group of people, and say we're waiting for a weather window. And say we have to wait for like 10 days, which is a very long time. And one group of people starts whining and complaining. They're sitting there, I'm so bored, my body is losing acclimatization, what am I doing here, I want to go home. And then there is another group of people in the same situation. And they're sitting there and thinking, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to rest. My body right now is getting stronger to be able to go and summit that mountain in 10 days when the weather window is here. And so, perception, right? There was another story on Annapurna. I was climbing it last year in March. Annapurna is the deadliest mountain on the planet. It's the 5th highest in the world. It's located in Nepal. And it's deadly because of its avalanches. And avalanches hit anywhere. You can't predict them, right? Summiting Annapurna was like, buying a lottery ticket and hoping you won. You can't really control anything, lots of uncertainty. And so we have these two friends. They go to acclimatize to Camp 1. They go away for an overnight trip. Then they both come back. Next morning, one guy packs his bags and leaves the expedition. We're like, what? And then his friend says, well, we get to Camp 1, we sit there, and Camp 1 is this area where you can see the whole mountain where all the avalanches are happening. It's like watching a Netflix documentary on avalanches, sitting there. It's pretty scary. And so these guys go, and one guy sees adventure, he enjoys the Netflix show, and another guy sees death, he sees danger, and he just leaves the expedition. He got scared. And these two guys, they went on the same hike. Perception again, right? Same story, different outcomes. And probably another important piece on perception. And at our nightly briefings on the mountain, we never talk about death rates. We always talk about success rates. And there is another story on Annapurna. There is this area called Bottleneck. It's above Camp 2, and it's between Camp 2 and Camp 3. And so the urban legend says that all the avalanches that are happening, they go through the bottleneck from Camp 3 to Camp 2. Nowhere else on the mountain avalanches not happening. And so the fixed rope goes from Camp 2 to Camp 3 as well. And so they're saying that whenever you climb in Annapurna and you climb in from Camp 2 to Camp 3, this is where everybody dies. And so everybody is scared of that bottleneck. But then we look at the data. We were waiting for weather window, we had nothing to do. We decided to look at the data because we had some finance people at the base camp. And guess what? Since the 60s, there was only one person who died in the bottleneck. Everybody else died elsewhere for no other reasons. There was no patterns to death, right? And so here's the lesson on perception for you. Whenever you feed in your decision model in your brain, make sure you put in the good data in it. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Same as AI models. Because you're acting and you're creating your reality on personal beliefs, you have to make sure you check the data you're putting into your brain. And the last concept for today, the concept of failure. Just like everything else, all events in life are neutral, and failure as well. No need to decide that something is a failure, because officially failure is the absence of the desired result. But champagne was a result of a mistake. When the baby learns to walk, it keeps falling. Do we call a baby a loser? No, right? So the idea here, when you're dealing with failure, just keep acting, keep collecting the data. And whenever you make a mistake, make sure, A, you make those mistakes early in the process so you can start learning. And B, whenever you learn something, make sure you put it back into your decision-making model. And then you just keep climbing.